So let's see here. I am so excited, guys, so excited to kick off today's event, Creating a Culture of Well-Being, Building a Healthy and Happy Work Environment, sponsored by my good friends over at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development in North America. Now, for those who don't know, Fairy God Boss is the largest career community for women. Millions of women visit Fairy God Boss for career connections, jobs, community advice, hard to find intel about how companies treat women, and virtual events just like this one. Now, you guys have heard more than enough about me and about Fairy God Boss. Let's get into it with our guests, our panelists. We're thrilled to be joined by three leaders at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development in North America: Phoebe, Heather, and John. So I would like for each of you to take a minute to introduce yourselves, please. We'd love to hear what's going on in your life, personally, professionally, and what you do in your role over at MBRDNA. Phoebe, I would love to kick it off with you.
Thank you so much, Lasheen. I love your energy. It's just making me bubble over this morning, or almost afternoon, since I'm here out of Dallas, Texas. But I am the recruiting operations manager at MBRDNA. I'm remote based at this time. I have a team of recruiters. We have an RPO currently established with the company as well. So they supplement our recruiting strategy here at MBRDNA. Personally, I'm a mom of 3 plus a fur baby. I've been in the automotive tech space for the last almost 8 or so years, but at MBRDNA about 2. And wellness is definitely something that's always top of mind and discussing with my teammates, myself personally, as well as candidates. So very happy to be here.
Fantastic, Phoebe. Thank you so much. Heather, we'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Thank you, Lasheen. So welcome, everyone. My name is Heather, and I am one of the people business partners here at MBRDNA. I've been with the company just over 18 months and in the automotive industry, like Phoebe, for quite a while. I'm at 13 years, so really enjoying. I think I love cars. I don't know. But I am here today to talk about some of the great things that we at MBRDNA are doing, how we can help you, and hopefully make things a little bit better for you as employees wherever you are. So excited to help you with that. I get to talk to employees every day about all sorts of things. So I'm excited to kind of bring some of those ideas today.
Fantastic. I love it. And last but certainly not least, John, please introduce yourself and your role at MBRDNA.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is John Kaharian. I'm the Senior Benefits and Operations Program Manager here at MBRDNA. Unlike Heather and Phoebe, I haven't been in the automotive industry for that long, for about 2 years. Prior to, I'm based out here in California, out in the Bay Area. So I've been in the tech space for a little over 10 years. So this is my first foray into the automotive industry. Been in the benefits and HR space for about 15 years. And yeah, just really enjoyed my time here at MBRDNA, getting to work with a really talented and passionate group, and look forward to really hoping to educate a lot of people about health and wellness and things that maybe they could take advantage in their own personal life, and look forward to chatting with everyone.
I love it. This is going to be so inspiring and so great. I love that we're doing this topic. You know, I sit and I think sometimes about, you know, back, 15, 20 years ago, nobody was talking about wellness, mental health, mental wellness, anything of that persuasion. So I just love that we're actually talking about this today. And we have so many people who chimed in today, registered and are actually attending and watching this, because wellness is something that needs to be discussed. So thank you all. I'm excited for the discussion. And for those just tuning in, I do want to remind you that we will be answering questions that come directly from you folks. So please submit your questions when we get the ball rolling, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can throughout the call. Now, my first question is going to go to Heather. What inspired you personally to become an advocate for well-being in the workplace?
So that's a really easy question for me. So I'm a cancer survivor, actually 19 years. So it's a wonderful thing. Yep. But really, it's because if I hadn't had that opportunity to learn from the worst thing that I felt at that time could possibly happen, to take me first, I never would have gotten to where I am today. So I have learned to take time. I've learned to spend time with my kids, with my husband, with my fur babies, and really be able to address that and focus on me, because if I don't do that, no one else will. And my team would say I'm kind of the jokester, always smiling, finding the best in every situation. That particular situation helped me to get to that point. So by making sure that I can still see, the light every day, that type of thing, really made a difference. And being able to have the right leaders supporting me and being around at that time was exactly what I needed. Don't forget family too, because that makes a difference.
Absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much for kicking us off with such a personal story. John, same question. What inspired you personally to become an advocate for well-being in the workplace?
Yeah. Early on in my career, I used to work in consulting, and it was with the ADP. And part of our service structure was to talk about benefits. And we had a wide variety of different clients, and I happened to work with one particular client, a lot of first generation immigrants working with this particular client. And a lot of them weren't aware of the different types of wellness resources available within their health benefit program. And to me, it felt like I was talking to my parents, because they had these benefits, they knew of them, but they weren't really able to really take full advantage of these types of benefits within the programs that are available to them at no cost. So for me, that really kind of resonated with me, and that's something I've been trying to do throughout my career, is to educate and hopefully let everyone know the types of benefits that are available to them, whether it be free or additional costs, but just really education and just kind of bringing awareness for the different type of wellness programs that are available out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer there. And then last but not least, Phoebe, please let us know.
I think as a mom, kind of wellness is always on your mind, whether it's about yourself or your children. But I've also been in a space surrounded with either family members or myself going through mental health challenges. And you just can't be at yourself or be at your best for others if you're not taking care of yourself. So I feel like, wellness has always been kind of ever present in my life. So being an ally has, been something that kind of came natural to me. But I also think, being in the HR space, being in recruiting, when you encounter people either, welcoming them to the company or trying to, talk about the different programs that we have, it's really important to try and build that connection and let them know that it's not just about the work. The work is very important, right? But it's also about the person and making sure that we're able to support you while you're here on this journey with us through work. And it's been easy to do here at MBRDNA. I've taken advantage of many of our wellness plans, most recently our wellness benefit to help, offset costs to join the gym to try and stay fit and healthy, which, kind of ties right into that, as well as some of the other programs. So I think, being able to see yourself in others is a way to definitely make you an ally in such an important space.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much. I was looking at one of the comments that came in from Brenda in our audience, and she mentioned, she grew up in the power through era where, you had to just leave work. Leave your personal life at the door, and you go into work and you have to just leave your personal stuff. And I'm just so happy that we're shifting as a society and as a workforce. So again, this is just so important that we're having this conversation today. And what I would love to do, John, is kick off with you with my next question. Can you share a specific example of how implementing employee well-being initiatives had a noticeable impact on the culture and performance at MBRDNA? Like, How does investing in long-term employee well-being benefits create positive change at the organization?
Yeah, great question. For me personally, I'm a very data analytics driven person. So sometimes when we see a program that's been rolled out, sometimes we want to take a look at utilization. And sometimes when we see there's a need that's out there for a particular program, and we start seeing slow utilization of a particular program, that's awesome. So one of the programs that we have here is a backup care program. When we first had something like that, not the highest utilization. We had to deal with COVID, so there was that challenge. But then later on, just starting grassroots movement, I was starting to see people using this program and just taking a look at the people using the program in terms of over a yearly basis, and people just reaching out. Unsolicited, knowing about the program after getting communication, bringing awareness, super important. It's a slow and steady challenge. I wish we could have instant results sometimes, but sometimes it just takes time, and that's just what it is. And just having people just give old-fashioned feedback, just saying, this is awesome. This is really super helpful. I could go out and run errands and drop off my kids and do some things, or maybe go on a date night. Who knows? A lot of different variety of reasons to use this backup care programs, not only for childcare, but also for people with older parents, and just people just reaching out, just saying, hey, this is awesome. This is really, really helpful. And EAP is another example as well, where most employers' EAP programs have a lot of programs built within that. So we look for utilization of people reaching out, creating that awareness, and people just telling me, hey, this is something that maybe might need a little work, or hey, this is awesome. That'd be great if we could, create a little more awareness on that. So including analytics, I really lean on our employees' feedback regarding certain programs as well. So, so for me, it's always going to be a constant evolution in terms of making programs better. But yeah, just old-fashioned feedback, as well as just people taking a look at analytics as well.
That's fantastic. And again, it speaks to where we are now as a workforce and society, because I remember back in the day, there was like the suggestion box where you just kind of put in things and the box just gets filled up because nobody ever actually empties it out and does any of the suggestions and cares about what the people think. So I just love that, in your situation and over at MBRDNA, you actually care what the people think and what they consider to be an awesome program, something implemented that was great, or something that maybe need some work. So fantastic. Thank you, John. Phoebe, same question. How does investing in long-term employees' well-being benefits create positive change at an organization?
Well, I think it's important that, if a company is investing in these type of programs, that means that the leadership also has to be on board with it, right? You can't offer great maternity benefits, but the leaders are saying, we want you back in here after 6 weeks, right? So I think it's they go hand in hand. So when we're able to explain to incoming applicants and candidates about these programs, it's kind of like they know that that's a part of our culture, because if we didn't have the support from leadership, we wouldn't be able to offer these programs. Me, myself, I actually joined the company when I was pregnant with my last child. Wow. So learning about, the incredible maternity leave benefits was such a blessing, to not have to think about rushing back, immediately after. John was my right-hand person helping to navigate these waters, since it had been 8 years since I had to, go down this maternity leave journey. And one of the amazing things that happened is, initially I came back. I thought I had enough time. I thought I was ready to go. But after several months, it was like, you know what, maybe I rushed this a little bit. So, re-engaging with John and my manager, I was able to leave out again and take the most of the rest of my maternity benefits, and really come back ready and engaged, and truly having that extra bonding time with my child, and being ready, restful, ready to take on the challenges, was such an incredible benefit. So again, I think it's one of those things, if a company isn't offering these types of benefits, then you may want to question what the culture is there. But if they are offering it, it usually means that the leadership has bought into this, and it's going to be a supportive place.
I love that. And it's something I hope our audience is really taking notes on, because it's so important. Like you said, it speaks to the culture. So it kind of tells you and shows you, exactly what kind of company you're working for, how much are they willing to invest in your well-being. So I absolutely love that answer. Shifting over to Heather, because you've been a little quiet there. What are some personal self-care practices that you have that have been instrumental in maintaining your own well-being, amidst work pressures and responsibilities?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I mentioned, right, that I had the opportunity back when I was diagnosed many years ago to kind of take the time and spend it on myself. And since then, I've really learned what makes me a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable. Being a people business partner, we're in kind of an on-the-go type state. It's never the same thing twice. So really, my biggest thing is, it sounds crazy, but getting my nails done. I take the time every 2 weeks and I go and do it. And my husband knows that that is my focus. That is my time. It's not so much that my nails have to look great, but coming out of there and having that color sparkle in the sun or whatever, it just really gives me that little bit of energy, and it's my time to disconnect. I don't read emails. I really truly kind of talk to the ladies or the gentlemen. I've actually had a few gentlemen recently that are really doing a great job. So I talk to them and get to know who they are, and really know other people outside of maybe my small circle within MBRDNA, and get to focus on me and just being who I am. So I really enjoy that.
I love that so much. Just the FYI, I'm the king of getting mani peds. So I'm with you. I'm with you 200%. I love that feeling too. I just do the clear, but still, I love, coming through and got that sparkle. The sunlight hits it right at the right spot. You're like, yeah, I feel good about myself. So I'm with you on that one. Let's see, Phoebe, I'd love to know a little bit more about like some of the self-care practices that you have implemented into your life.
I'm right there with you guys. Mani pedi all day long. Set appointment. Let me make sure my husband's not listening. Self-care doesn't always have to cost money. It's nice when you are able to spend money on it. But I think one of my things with self-care is, really kind of respecting that home balance when work is over, right? And I know it's really difficult sometimes working from home, right? It's like, when does the work day end and kind of family time start? Well, I have a toddler, so it's usually really apparent, but sometimes the line blurs and you're like, oh, well, one more email before bed and things like that. But I think, one of the best things you can do for yourself, self-care, is to say, when the work is over, you put it in the workspace. So whether it's your home office, whether it's a closet, whether it's your laptop bag, like, you truly disconnect so that there's not this constant blur of, am I actually still working? Am I spending time with the family? I think self-care is really maintaining those boundaries and making sure you are separating and walking away from work when the workday is over.
Absolutely. It is so important. And I definitely understand exactly what you're saying. And I think one thing we should mention also is that people shouldn't feel guilty about that. You should not feel guilty about taking that time and differentiating between, all right, that's it. That's my last email I'm sending. And now it's time for, whether it's kids, fur babies, going to the gym, whatever the case may be, but it's not work. And that's important. And you shouldn't feel bad about it. Let's see here. Okay, I have a really good one here. How can organizations support and address the mental health needs of employees during challenging times or crises? Anyway, John, I will have you kick us off with that one.
Phoebe mentioned this earlier, and it's really having buy-in from management up top, and letting people know, hey, we have these resources available, and just really, I know we all have stuff to do and we have objectives we need to achieve, but we're all human, And sometimes stuff just happens in our lives, whether it be physical, whether it be mental, family stuff happens. And I've been really, really lucky here. Just, from a personal standpoint, a lot of the managers here, not a lot, all of them actually are very receptive and understanding to some of the struggles that maybe some of our employees might have. And, just open to letting them know, or, just letting me know that, hey, what can we do for this employee? And it's been great. It's been very refreshing. I've been in the benefit space for a long time, and that's not always the case. Yeah. And here it's been a very progressive team. And, I think it's been years of education and awareness, and that's something we continue to do, whether it be via communications internally, whether it be through just email blasts, whatever it might be. We just try to create that awareness, and even partnering up with our people business partners like Heather. Our people business partners do a fantastic job of just making sure, managers, employees know what kind of resources we have. And it's just constant education, just letting people know, bringing awareness to certain programs. Even myself personally, just sending out, whether it be, I don't like the word newsletters, but just bringing out, awareness regarding certain types of programs, whether it be financial wellness, or whether it be mental health awareness, just general health awareness for certain programs. So it's just really bringing awareness, bringing, education to managers, as well as, the general workforce.
Love it. Thank you so much, John. Heather, same question there. How can organizations support and address the mental health needs of employees during challenging times?
Yeah, I think, again, right, John and Phoebe have said it where it's from the top down, but I think also our leaders need to really lead by example, and they need to not fear to acknowledge their own situations. Well-being and stress and so on and so forth are not things that only affect or need to be looked at by individual contributor employees. It really affects everyone. And so if the employees see that leaders are actually taking care of themselves, and maybe they're taking some time, we do not have a sabbatical benefit, but we do have the other wellness benefits that are available to everyone. And it doesn't matter if you're CEO or an individual contributor. All of that is available to our employees. And if they see that someone is taking time to take care of themselves, it really can make the employees feel a little bit better about having those conversations in their upper level management as well. So we are lucky that we have some great benefits at RDNA, and that we have John to be able to make sure that everyone has everything they need, and that those open lines of communication are happening, because without that, we wouldn't be as successful as we are, maybe with our employees, but as well as other businesses would be with theirs.
Completely understood. Thank you. So we are going to start taking in audience questions. So folks that are watching, please feel free to ask a couple of questions. I did see one come in already, so I'm going to go on ahead and take a look here. All right. So the question is, how does one ask this in an interview process? What I think they're referring to is, how do you ask about the benefits, during an interview without, what's the best way, I guess, to ask during an interview with a new potential employer, like, what good benefits do you guys have? Like, wow me, so to speak.
So I think that's a great question. And I think it's definitely something you should be asking, right? Because again, it can give you some insight into the company culture. And I think it's as simple as that. What are the benefits that your company currently offers? And if they don't mention anything about wellness, it's okay to ask, are there any specific wellness benefits or programmatics that you have? And if a recruiter takes offense to that, then that's probably another sign that that might not be the right culture for you. But, I know when it comes to our team, we get a great one-pager from John every year, making sure we're up to date on, what are the high-level things that we currently have, if there's been any updates to some of the benefits programmatics. So I think it's really important that you should ask that question during the interview process. And, you know, you can start with high level. What are some of, you know, the benefits you have? You can ask them, are there anything, you know, any benefits that really set you apart from others? And if they don't mention wellness, then be specific.
I love that. Like you just can't be afraid to ask the question, you know? At the end of the day, I think folks sometimes get so caught up in the interview process that they think that, you know, it's all about them impressing the job, but the job has to impress you too. They want you too. They saw your resume and saw something special there. So you have the right to ask these questions. So guys, please don't forget that. Anything, Heather or John, that you guys want to chime in on with this specific question?
Yeah, I'll chime in. Phoebe nailed it. It's benefits are very confusing for a lot of people. That's why I do what I do. The benefits can be very confusing for a lot of folks, but simply put, ask. Not everyone's going to be a benefits expert. So maybe you might be talking with an individual. Maybe that's not their forte. There is a specific benefits team that might be available to assist, and ask. You got to ask. But to another point is that if that information is like pulling teeth and maybe they're a little hesitant about sharing that kind of information, that could be, simply put, a red flag. You know, I'm pretty blunt about that kind of stuff. So if an organization's a little blunt about it and they can't even say they have a wellness program, or they don't have an EAP or anything of that nature, you might want to think about what you're heading into before you move forward. But that's just once again my 2 cents. But our recruiters do a really fantastic job. If they ever need assistance, I'll share benefits information that might be a little bit more in depth, but that's never an issue for me to share that information with a prospective candidate. So that's never been a problem, and hopefully for a lot of other teams or other potential opportunities you might be looking into, that shouldn't be an issue either. So, you know, simply put, ask, and hopefully that's something they could provide. Then if not, then yeah, might want to keep it moving.
Think about that think about it kind of like dating. You know, if you get a red flag on that date, you know what you need to do. Don't maybe not do a second date. It's okay. And before we get to the next question, Heather, did you have anything you wanted to?
No, I just want to say 18 months ago when I interviewed for MBRDNA, those were some of the questions I asked. And that is one of the reasons why I made the decision I made. So, Kelly, don't be afraid to ask anyone. Don't be afraid to ask. You definitely can make or break where you end up for your career. You know, we usually don't try to stay somewhere just a few months, but we want to make sure that we're comfortable where we do end up. We spend a lot of time at work. So let's make sure that you have that good, well balance that you need.
I love that. I love that. And again,
Lasheen, I had one other thing to add. I had an experience where a candidate was going through, his wife was going through fertility treatments. And it was very important for him to know that as part of the interview process. And at the time I was with another employer, I wasn't sure what the benefits were with the different health plans. So I reached out to our benefits person, and I was able to confirm that with the employee, that there was a certain benefit allowed if he enrolled in X program. And I mean, you have to be specific. If it's important things like that, do not be afraid or shy away from asking about that, because again, fiscally, it could affect you. Emotionally, it could affect you if now you're not able to proceed with that. So even if it's something very personal and specific, you have to be able to inquire and see if that's something that that company has, because it could affect you long term.
I love that. It speaks, again, I'm going to say it a lot throughout this conversation, but it just speaks to where we are today versus where we were. Because as you were telling that story just now, I remember, 17 years ago when I was, I was, expecting my son, and I got a new job. It was my first time in corporate America. I was super young, and I was terrified to tell them that I was going to, have a baby in a couple of, months. And I didn't say anything. One day I just showed up and was like, hey guys, I got to go to the hospital. And I just didn't tell them because I was so afraid during that interview process that they would say, oh no, but that's not the world we live in anymore, or at least we're moving past that. So I want the folks listening to just really kind of own that and embrace this new reality, if you will, because things are getting a little bit better. And if we take advantage of these programs and just speak and be a little bit more personal, I think that it can really help you in the long run, just like Phoebe said.
8 years ago, Lasheen, I showed up at work. I interviewed. I had a big jacket on me. I showed up first day. Here goes the belly. Hi, everyone. I'll be going out in October.
Oh, you know?
2 years ago, joining MBRDNA, it was, I'm currently pregnant. I'm due in November. I want to be open and honest about it. Make sure, you know, you guys are ready for me to have to step out. So you're 1,000% right. You know, times are changing. And, you know, I was blessed to be in a situation where I exposed that I was pregnant, and it was a welcoming conversation. And, you know, nothing was done because, oh my goodness, now she's pregnant. We can't, you know, what are we going to do if she comes in and leaves? So, you know, I'm hoping that that is a sign of the times and something that everyone can experience. But yeah, I showed up the first day. Surprise.
Oh my God, that is rich. That is so good. So yeah, I just love it. I love the flow of this conversation where we're able to be very, very real and tell real stories and still help and give informative value to our audience. And that's what it's all about. So I want to jump back into a slightly more serious conversation. Just you guys have everybody has mentioned in some way, shape, or form about leadership and you know, how the management, you know, if they support it, you know, these programs, and that speaks to the culture. So here's a question here. What role can leaders play in modeling and promoting well-being practices in the workplace? Phoebe, I'd like for you to kick us off on this one.
Now, I think it's very important that leaders walk the walk and not just talk the talk, right? And what moments that make me proud here at MBRDNA is when my team reaches out to me and they're like, this happened a few weeks ago. I don't know if Cheryl's on the call, but Cheryl pinged me and she said, what are you doing up at 1 a.m. sending emails? You talk to us about wellness all the time. You shouldn't be doing that. And I'm like, guilty. Guilty, Cheryl. You're absolutely right. And it will not happen again this week. You know, so I think it's really important for leaders to model the behaviors that they want their team to be able to take, whether, you know, with us, we have flexible time off for our FTEs. So if you encourage your team to take time off, you should also be taking time off. If you encourage your team to set those boundaries between work hours and non-work hours, you also have to be doing that. Otherwise, it creates this kind of, I mean, they said it to me, but do they actually mean it? Like, what's going to happen if I take time off because they never take any time off? And that's not the atmosphere you want to create. You definitely have to walk the walk as a leader. Otherwise, it can seem disingenuous if you're telling your team to do something and you're not setting the example.
I love that. That's something that you don't really think about until you just said it. And now it's kind of all hitting me. Like, that's such a great point. Heather, same question. You know, what role can leaders play in modeling and promoting well-being practices in the workplace?
Yeah, not much more to add there. Phoebe really touched on all of those parts. But as the business partner, I do have those conversations with my leaders. We work on very different time zones here at MBRDNA. We could be working with India and China or Germany or whatever, right? We are a global business, and our employees and our leaders will be working from 5 o'clock in the morning and then have, you know, more calls again at midnight. So getting them to really understand and have that conversation with their employees that, look, if you got on calls at 5 a.m., I don't expect you to be on calls at midnight. I'm not going to be on that call at midnight because I'm going to be spending time with my family. So ensuring that they are having those conversations. So walking the walk, talking the talk, doing that all, but also ensuring that, much like Phoebe had with Cheryl, that we also feel that we can reach out and say to our managers, hey, why are you sending me an email at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Knowing that they're in the same time zone. Now, granted, if my manager's in Germany and they're sending odd emails at odd times, right, that's a different story. But you want to make sure that in those working hours, those expectations are set and understood on both sides. And two, that if things are, you're constantly on meetings at midnight, that sooner or later that conversation is had with your manager, because then we also need to bring in that bigger group, right? And sometimes it's not just our small little group here in Sunnyvale, California, right? Maybe it's our team in Michigan or so on and so forth, but it could also be our teams overseas. And with that, then having those conversations and setting those expectations there as well. It doesn't just have to be with you, but setting it outside of your direct team can be helpful as well. So continuing to have those conversations.
Absolutely. Love these answers. So John, this next question I have, I feel like it was tailor-made for you. You're going to love this one. Now, how can organizations measure the impact and effectiveness of their well-being initiatives? How do you collect data and feedback from your employees at MBRDNA?
Good old-fashioned metrics. I'm kind of a numbers geek. I love numbers in general. Use it for golf. I use it for all sorts of stuff. Job's no different here. Whether we have, just creating people having a need for it, people just reaching out and asking, hey, can we look into something like this? But also to the earlier question, the effectiveness of existing programs. I'll work with my brokers and I'll work with our internal team over at MBUSA to figure out, are people even using this program, or directly with the carriers for that matter. So if we were checking out our EAP, maybe our utilization might be a little low. Maybe we might have to increase communication about it. Or something I've been doing recently is creating different types of financial education sessions. And being able to reach out to different demographics, right? So we have, let's just say we have a certain group of people that might want some education regarding saving for college, whether it be individuals saving for retirement. Our Gen Z folks coming in, what is a retirement plan? How do I save? Things like that. And being able to, and just having people reach out to me and just asking, hey, what's up? I'd really like to have something like this. And just, being receptive. And you talk to all the different carriers, and there's going to be a program for that need. So once again, for me, I'm very transparent when it comes to these kind of things. So whether it be during new hire orientation or just talking to some of the employees I deal with or work with on a daily basis, I take their feedback and I take it to heart. So if it's something that I feel like it's something that is a pretty significant need, then let's address it and see what's up, and hopefully we could get a program out there for people to attend, as well as maybe look into certain programs we could add on. That's fingers crossed about that. But it's something we always want to be receptive about. And once again, to address it earlier, looking at analytics, but also talking with the employees and just seeing, are we addressing your needs? What do you think you might want to look at in terms of, what kind of sessions or what kind of programs do you think would be useful for you?
I love that. And I love I could tell you're passionate about this, because as soon as I asked the question, you kind of leaned back, then you came back up ready. Like, you really, like, yeah, here we go. This is my forte. I love it. I love it. I love it. And just completely off topic, you said you're into numbers. Did you ever watch that show Numbers, where the FBI was like, had a mathematician that would help him like solve crimes?
Yeah, I have actually.
I had to ask.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, Phoebe, same question. As far as how can organizations measure the impact and effectiveness of the wellbeing initiatives, and how do you collect any feedback at all?
Yeah, I have to give John kudos. We recently started the Women's BRG group, and we hosted a session just kind of around different topics about being a woman, what happens during kind of your lifespan, whether it's, the early part and you're thinking about having a baby, or maybe you're saying, I don't want to have kids, Or maybe you're saying, I don't know. And maybe you're interested in egg freezing. And then what happens when menopause happens and what kind of support you can have at work. And, you know, John was on the call and he was fielding questions. And, you know, when someone asked about, you know, well, what if I don't know and I want to look into egg freezing? That's not a standalone option right now. And John was honest. He was like, you know what, maybe that's something we can look into. You know, it's a part of the, you know, kind of IVF process under certain health plans, but not a standalone. And he's very open and honest with employees. He takes that feedback. I think also with employee surveys, we do a good job here at MBRDNA asking about, you know, things that can help benefit you here at the company. But also, again, these kind of open webinars and discussions. I think, you know, being transparent with what we offer, what we don't offer, and taking the feedback from employees is really important. And that's how you make sure that you're supporting the population you have. And it won't always look the same. You know, sometimes that can change. But, you know, I think John has his pulse on things, you know, whether it's the financial wellness seminars, coming to the different, you know, discussion topics to hear what are on, you know, the top concerns with people. So we're doing a great job here. Thanks, John.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So Heather, I wanted to ask, you know, how can organizations ensure that employee well-being initiatives are inclusive and cater to all diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging needs?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we are paying attention to that. And MBRDNA has really put a focus on that here in at least my 18 months. I'm sure a little bit longer. But, you know, one thing Phoebe said is we do surveys, we do employee surveys to kind of understand what the employees want. But at the same time, we need to talk to them. And so recently we've set up some what we're calling kind of coffee chats with our leadership in order for the employees to be able to just sit down and have an off-the-cuff conversation about whatever it is they want to talk about. And a lot of times that brings up some of those conversations and allows the leadership to really understand what it is that employees want to have, whether it's well-being, whether it's BRGs, right, the business resource groups, any of those types of things. So we've really started to focus and get our leadership to ask those questions and really focus and have an understanding of where people want to be.
Fantastic. John, same question there for you.
Yeah, I mean, Phoebe and Heather nailed it. Having these particular groups within your organization, like the Women at MBRDNA group, it was awesome being a part of it because one, you know, I've been in the benefits game for a while, but obviously I'm not a woman. So, you know, getting input from them about our fertility program, you know, that was something that yeah, you know what? We don't have that. And since then, I've created a proposal and have sent it over to our corporate team to add as a potential offering for the following year. Having these kind of groups is really super helpful. One, it's obviously great for representation to, you know, maybe hear from some groups of people who might be underrepresented at the workforce. But two, it gives me another perspective on our benefits program. Maybe we don't have certain things that, you know, maybe I think, hey, we do have a pretty solid programs, but maybe there are some gaps that need to be addressed. And I can't say that whatever, you know, that gap might be will be addressed because benefits do cost money. But at the same time, it's creating that awareness, not only here internally, but also some of our partners that we work with at MBUSA to maybe say, you know what? Yeah, there is a gap. We didn't think it wasn't intentional, but maybe during when we designed it, it was something we didn't think about. So having these groups super important. And just, yeah, I mean, just I think for me personally, it's just getting a different perspective on, you know, items like this. And once again, I mean, it's just I'm all ears. So if there's anything that we can do to improve the program, I'm all for it.
I love that. And then John, that really and truly makes you a real and genuine ally. And that is phenomenal. I just love what I'm hearing. And you guys over at MBRDNA, this is why you guys are one of my favorite clients to work with. I just love the energy and the genuine caring that you guys have for people. That is fantastic. Plus Mercedes are cool cars. All right, so let's see here. I did want to ask another question here, and I'd like all three of you guys to answer this one. I want to start with Heather. How can mindfulness and self-care practices be integrated into the workday to support employees? Do you have any advice on how you implement mindfulness and self-care into your workday?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. And of course, I got this question ahead of time and had to really think about it. But I don't always set boundaries. I've gotten a little better. So I do take Phoebe's advice, and my work phone goes in my, office, my home office in the evening. I do try to separate, but find one or two things that you really love to do and make those happen would be my recommendation. Step aside, even if it's 10 minutes, get outside. The sun is shining. It is summertime right now. And I know we in California have it really easy, but I grew up in Chicago. So I do understand what it's like to have the cloud cover, but get that little bit of vitamin D, sit in a chair for 10 minutes. I actually set an alarm on my phone so that if I fall asleep, I don't miss my next meeting. So, make sure you set that alarm if you need it. There's not a one size fits all idea for any of us. And you really have to find your moment, add it to your schedule, literally put it on your calendar that you are going to take that 15-minute break and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really that simple, guys. Don't feel guilty about it. Take the time, 15 minutes, just go for it. John, did you have any advice here on how to implement mindfulness and self-care into your workday?
Block off some time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple as that. So I know everyone's got a pretty dynamic schedule, but I mean, and sometimes there can be some days, a lot of days where that might not happen, but you got to make yourself a priority. Even for myself, I might just step away. If I'm working from home, I'm going to hit some putts right on my carpet just to kind of step away for a minute. Sorry, guys, I'm going to practice golf. But for me, it blocks off, okay, I need to take, or just even going out for a walk, like Heather said. Or what you could do is, if you do download some of those apps for a 10 to 15 minute meditation session, if you use like a Calm or, free advertisement here, like Calm or any of those type of programs, they're super helpful. I have some of those apps, and just spending that time. Some progressive companies have a meditation room. So if you happen to be at the office, that's super helpful too. But my meditation room might be about 20 feet away from my desk and my recliner. So just, turn that on. So having that time, you got to make time for yourself. And that's something, we'll talk about later, but I wish I was a little better about that personally for myself. One of my earliest mentors, hopefully she's here, maybe she's not, but she said that work will always be waiting for you. So whether you're, going at it for 12 hours in a row, that work's still going to be there. It's not going to be end of the world if you step away for about 10 or 15 minutes. So take that time. It's, we have a limited time here on this planet, so got to take care of yourself.
I love that. I love that, especially that ending line just now. Absolutely. And Phoebe, I did want to hear from you as well. Any advice here?
So I try to work it into my team meetings. We've done in the past 5-minute meditations where I send them a link to a guided meditation off of YouTube. And, we turn our camera off, we do our meditation, we come back and talk about, was it refreshing? Maybe you didn't like the music on that one. Are there other ones that you like to use? So I try to bring it in, during team meetings so that, it gives people ideas. It makes it kind of more acceptable and transparent. And as well as, you know, when it comes to sometimes, you know, Zoom fatigue, right? That's a real thing. So sometimes we do no camera meetings, right? The video is off. We're just going to listen to one another. You don't have to worry about, you know, looking your best. We're doing no cameras off this week for our meeting. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of small things that you can incorporate that, you know, it doesn't necessarily cost money. You know, it doesn't take a lot of planning, but it's the small things that can really make a difference. And I think also, you know, I also try and stress to the team, like if I know we're in a busy period or I see it's coming, right? I see all these new recs going into the system. It's like, hey, we're about to get busy. If you want to take a 3-day weekend, do it now, because in 4 weeks, you might not be able to. So rest up, you know? So I think, you know, being transparent about what the business needs may be coming up so that the team can be restful and be ready to be at their best when it's busy is also really important.
Absolutely. I love this so much. So now we're going to go spend the last little leg of this conversation just doing audience questions. And this one isn't necessarily a question, but it's just such a great comment that will open conversation. I do want to get as many in as possible, so let's try to answer these as concise as we can. But this is from Brenda. As an exec coach, what I've been seeing since COVID is a split between forward-minded companies like yours and almost a backsliding for other companies to clamp down on worker flexibility and work-life balance. I've also noticed friction between different generations as they each bring their own experiences and norms. Again, it's not really a question, but this was so important. I just felt like we had to discuss it in this, you know, as little time as we can. But any thoughts on this? And whoever wants to answer first, just unmute yourself.
Yeah. So, Lasheen, I just wanted to say that we're going to experience that today, just as they did, you know, 50, 60 years ago, right? As baby boomers were coming in, as the baby boomers start to leave the workforce, we are going to see that shift in some of that. But what I think we need to do, especially like myself as business partners, or, you know, any of us that are leaders within the business, we need to make sure that there is a place for that conversation and ensure that we are having that conversation, because otherwise the friction continues and nobody says anything, and then it just gets worse and worse. So continuing to have that conversation, I think, will take some of the stress off of what we're trying to do during the day, and it takes the stress off of your employees wondering what might happen. So use that time to open up the conversation between you and your employees, or, you know, the bigger general population within your company.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think when things like that come up, that's a time for a leader or others to be an ally, right? If you feel that that a certain programmatic is important to the workforce, is important to an employee, is important to yourself, and you're seeing friction, now is the time to step up and be an ally and advocate for it if you see that it's something that's beneficial. You know, it's something as simple as, you know, I've had someone reach out and say, my employee told me they were going out for a 15-minute walk in the middle of the day. Is that normal that people do that? And it was in the moment, it was, yes, it's normal. Are they behind in their work? Is it disruptive to a meeting? It's perfectly normal. Maybe they needed to recharge and refresh. They just needed a breath of fresh air. If they're doing what they're supposed to do, yeah, let them go for a walk. Let them go for a jog. So I think it's important to realize when in a moment you can be an ally and advocate for something that's important to you and to others.
Absolutely. And the more times we say, yeah, that's fine, or as long as they're not behind on work, that's fine, it'll normalize it. And that's what we need to do, is just normalize it, because some folks just don't, they're unfortunately not as easy for them to shift into this new era. And you have to help them. You have to kind of walk them into it. I know we're cutting it close on time, but I did have another good question. How do you deal with people, including those above you, that ignore blocked out times on your calendar? I've had jobs where it's been a struggle just to eat lunch.
I'll jump in on this one. Set boundaries. You have to. I think that sometimes it's hard to speak up, but speak up with that manager. Just say, hey, you know, this is a time for me that I have to block out, because I can't just work straight through this. I got to eat and take time for myself, whether it be, you know, like depending on what industry, a 30 to 45 or maybe an hour long lunch. But that's got to be time specifically for you to take care of what you need to take care of, whether it's eating, whether it's just time away from the desk, maybe run an errand, who knows. It could be for a variety of different things, but that's your time. And that's just unsustainable, just to be at your desk the whole day.
Yeah.
I personally couldn't do that. Yeah. So I've had conversations with managers that would be, you know, hey, you know, I expect you to, where were you? I'm like, I don't know. I was just eating lunch because I'm not going to be at my desk. So they're fine. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. That's fine. Sometimes it's having that conversation. But if it's, you know, doesn't go well, then that's a whole other issue. But having that conversation.
Yeah. Again, I think the overarching theme is, you know, communication is key with setting boundaries, with taking the time that you need. You just have to be willing to, again, just communicate. Even to the question about the interview, how do you bring up benefits in interviews? You have to ask, just communicate. So I think that's a big takeaway that our audience needs to have. We are really, really close to the end there. So what I think I want to do is just take this time right now to thank you guys so much for being on today's call. Phoebe, Heather, and John. Just thank you so much. What a fantastic session. What great advice, great energy, and just so much positivity. I think a major takeaway, again, is that if you're working with a company, for the folks listening, that shows that they care about you when it comes to well-being and benefits, you're in good hands. If you see some red flags, maybe it's time to start exploring new options. You didn't hear that from me. But, you know, again, the red flags are there. There are companies out there that care. I think MBRDNA is doing a great and fantastic job of showing us just that if you are in a situation that seems unfair or that they don't seem to care as much, there are companies out there that do. And we are in an era right now where you can choose to explore those companies. Guys, we would love to hear your feedback to help us improve future events. So folks that are watching, please head to the Typeform tab on the right side of your screen to share your thoughts in a 1-minute survey. As a reminder, we will be sending out a recording of today's event along with resources to learn more about opportunities at MBRDNA. In the meantime, be sure to check out MBRDNA's profile and jobs on Fairy God Boss. They are hiring. At this point, if there's nothing else for us, I do want to thank everyone once again. And I want everyone to have a great, fantastic, amazing day and great, fantastic, and amazing week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lasheen.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.